Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Blanchard.
Here.
Councilmember Edgar.
Here.
Councilmember Kadeco.
Here.
Councilmember Stedman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Turbrack. Mayor O'Dwyer.
Here. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Support.
Move to approve by Councilmember Kadeco with support by Councilmember Baker. Any changes, additions? Hearing none, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll?
Blanchard.
Yes.
Edgar.
Yes.
Kadeco.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Now, the next order of business is actually the Pledge of Allegiance, and we are joined this evening by members of the 1085 Boy Scouts of Berkley, and they're under the leadership of Assistant Scoutmaster Mr. Jim Chamberlain. And with us are Nathan Danes, Maxwell Kopitz, Dylan Ottrock, and Lucas Robin Sensler. And they are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand. Thank you. And now we come to the Citizens' Comments portion of tonight's meeting, when you may present your thoughts on issues not on tonight's agenda. Council members will not engage you in discussion. If your concern needs to be addressed by a member of city staff or a department of the city, please sign your name on the sheet provided at the clerk's table. You may speak on a specific agenda item when it is being discussed. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and city of residence.
Good evening. My name is Dan Mihaescu. I am the chairman of the Berkley Beautification Advisory Committee. And this evening we wanted to recognize the local residents that did an outstanding job in decorating their homes for the holiday season here. It's obviously a challenge, and one of the things we did notice, it might have been a little bit more difficult for some of the homes due to the flooding that occurred in August. I would not be surprised if a lot of these homeowners had their Christmas lights and decorations stored in their basement. My wife, Vanella, who's the secretary of the committee, will be going through our presentation. So let's begin here with the first home here is located on Larkmore, and we really enjoy the combination of the garland and the wreaths and the beautiful colors that they use and the little trees that they located around the porch. So they were one of our winners. This other home as well on Larkmore, we really like the way that they tied the home and the actual physical aspects of the home with the decoration. So they shined some lights on a sculpture in the front yard as well as their front door, and they tied all that in very nicely together. This was another home on Hamilton. We enjoyed the fact that they had various colors on the wreaths and the roof of the house, as well as their bushes and shrubs, and a very festive Merry Christmas sign in the front of the home. This home here on Edgewood was excellent as well. They did have multiple wreaths on the front windows, the garland, the multiple lights, and it is one of those things that each year I'm very impressed with the challenge that these homeowners have to get those items on their homes. And then this home here on Robina, we also enjoyed very much with the wreaths and the multiple lights. And again, they tied in the front of the home very nicely with the decorations. So with that, if there's any of the homeowners here today that were mentioned, if you wouldn't mind stepping forward, and the city council members and the mayor will go ahead and shake your hands and recognize you for your outstanding work.
Congratulations.
Very nice job. Congratulations. Great job. Thank you.
Appreciate all the effort to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Favorite time of year.
Thank you very
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Really nicely done. Thank
Mind
you.
those wires.
Impressive.
Thank
Mind
you.
those wires.
Nicely done. Congratulations.
Great job.
Thank you.
thank you very much. And congratulations to all the award winners. It beautifies our city and enriches the festive experience for all of us. And so we thank you very much. Anybody else to come to the microphone? Seeing no one else, then we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Ms. Boucher, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Approval of the minutes, a matter of approving the minutes of the regular 35th City Council meeting on Monday, December 1st, 2014. Approval of the warrant, matter of approving warrant number 1285. Resolution number R4514, matter of accepting a donation from Amy Camiani to purchase a tot table and commemorative plaque for the Tot Lot Park. Resolution number R4614, matter of acknowledging the volunteer efforts of Berkley Troop 1085.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Blanchard with support by Councilmember Stedman. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on the consent agenda?
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now we move on to the regular agenda. Ms. Boucher, would you please read the first item on the regular agenda?
Recognitions, presentations, matter of any recognitions or presentations from the consent agenda.
I've asked Councilmember Edgar to read Resolution 4514.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of a resolution of the Council of the City of Berkley, Michigan, accept a donation from Amy Camiani to purchase a tot table and commemorative plaque for the Tot Lot Park. Whereas the City of Berkley Parks and Recreation Department received a donation of $975 from Amy Camiani to be used for the shipping and purchase of both a Tot blue table and a commemorative plaque to be placed at the Tot Lot Park. And whereas Mrs. Camiani approached the City of Berkley Parks and Recreation nearly a year ago to discuss a donation to the department to honor her late husband and past resident of Berkley, Bob Camiani. And whereas Ms. Camiani worked closely with the Parks and Recreation maintenance leader to donate an appropriate and usable gift at Tot Lot Park, where her late husband spent a great majority of his childhood years. And whereas Bob Camiani lived a few doors away from Tot Lot Park as a child and spent some of his happiest memories there, and would revisit the park as an adult. And now, therefore, the City of Berkley resolves, Section 1, that the City Council of the City of Berkley accept the gift of $975 from Amy Camiani to be used for the shipping and purchase of a tot table and commemorative plaque that states, in loving memory of Bob Camiani, Jr., 1952 to 2013. He never went home until the streetlights came on. In honor of her late husband, Bob Camiani, at Tot Lot Park. And Section 2, this gift will allow children to sit at a table that is perfectly sized for them at Tot Lot Park. And Section 3, the Parks and Recreation Department and City Council are grateful to Ms. Camiani for this donation and hope that the table and memorial honor her husband as she hopes. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, December 15th, 2014. Phil O'Dwyer, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate your inviting me here. This is very emotional, and I'm usually not, but this, although Berkley is not my home, it was his home for so many years, his best years, as we say, almost through age 12. And he lived 3 doors down from the Columbia Street Tot Lot, and his sister had to drag him home every night. But he always came home, and that's where that came from. She was telling me the story, that he always came home when the street lights came on. And that's where he first played baseball, and even though there's no longer a field there, it would be perfect. So we have the table in his favorite Tigers blue. And I know he's smiling down because he went through 4.5 years of cancer. And when we were down at Beaumont, very often he would want to stop by the Tot Lot and tell me the same stories. But it always, always made him smile. So I thank you. This has been this has been a real pleasure. I have to commend Dan Simpson. He was wonderful to work with, and the very moment that I talked with him, you could sense the pride he had in Berkeley and in their tot lots. And we had so many conversations about, you know, the upgrades and what was being done. So when it came to buying something, and he said, "You whatever you want," but when he mentioned the tot tables, I said, "That's perfect." So thank you. And we know that when the table's there, we're going to have a little family reunion right there to celebrate.
Nice.
Bob will be there playing baseball, probably. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's what the cable said.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
What a wonderful gift to the city, and what a wonderful memory to Bob. We're enormously thankful. And now I have asked Councilmember Blanchard to read R 4614.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Berkeley, Michigan, acknowledging the volunteer efforts of Berkeley Troop 1085. Whereas the City of Berkeley Parks and Recreation Department has 9 parks covering 32.5 acres of green space, including J.C. Park, which covers 2.7 acres. And whereas Troop 1085 which merged with Troop 1082 in the 1990s, has been active in Berkeley since 1954. Currently, over 60 scouts participate. And whereas on November 15th, 2014, Scout Troop 1085 ascended upon J.C. Park with rakes, tarps, leaf blowers to clean up the park, moving the fallen leaves to the curb for pickup. And whereas Troop 1085 contributed to our community in many ways, including outdoor education at Winterfest, VFW 9222's Toys for Tots breakfast, spaghetti dinner, ladies auxiliary luncheon, blood drives, Oakland County marshmallow drop, and Halloween party for adults with special needs, snow shoveling for those in need, as well as the annual Scouting for Food drive. And whereas the Scout motto is "Be Prepared," with the Scout slogan, "To do a good turn daily," Troop 1085 accomplishes these well and continues to provide positive learning outlets for their Scouts and our community. Now therefore, the City of Berkeley resolves, Section 1, the City Council of the City of Berkeley thanks the generous donation of time given by Troop 1085 Scouts, families, and friends to improve J.C. Park. And Section 2, the Parks and Recreation Department and the City Council are extremely grateful for all that Troop 1085 does in the city and for their efforts in keeping our green spaces beautiful. Introduced and passed at a regular City Council meeting on Monday, December 15th, 2014. Fellow Dwyer, Mayor.
Thank you. And thank you to the Boy Scouts. If you would come forward and receive the honor.
I just want to add that the Scouts have, excuse me, adopted the park on an annual basis. So each patrol is taking a turn on a monthly basis and going to the park just to pick up the trash and do general look around and cleanup. In the spring, we'll do another big cleanup, keep at it through the summer, and come fall, we'll do another big, raking all the leaves and everything off.
Very nice.
Who's gonna get this? You're in charge. Thank you very much. My son, I think both my sons were in 1085 many years ago.
I remember that.
Thank you.
Started years back myself. Same truth.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your work.
And now we move to item number 2. Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 2?
Resolution number R 4714, a matter of accepting the 6/30/12 retiree health care plan actual valuation report for fiscal years 2014, 2015, 2015, 2016, and 2016-17.
Is there a motion to approve R 4714?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion approved by Councilmember Baker with support by Councilmember Cadecle. Mr. Sessa.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Oops, too close. You know, With regards to this report, I've asked the finance director to bring this forth before the city council and to have you all ask any questions you may have regarding this report. And to do that, we've invited our actuary from Gabriel Roeder, and representing Gabriel Roeder is the actuary Shana Neeson, and she will be giving us a report. Now also, please know that after her presentation, I've asked the finance director to comment and to assist me in answering any questions that you may have. And very briefly, just for the viewing public, what this report does is it measures the amount of the annual required contribution the city would pay to defray current and future healthcare fringe benefit promises, or as we call them, OPEB, or other post-employment benefits for current retirees and beneficiaries and eligible future retirees currently employed in the city of Berkeley as of 6/30/12. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Neeson, and she can elaborate a little further. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me here this evening. I don't know, I believe you guys have a copy of the report in front of you. If you flip to the executive summary, page 1, we'll just talk about some of the highlights. As was just stated, the purpose of this valuation is to calculate the annual required contribution, or what we call the ARC, for purposes of GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Boards, with regards to your retiree health care plan. We do this valuation every 3 years, and in this val, we've included the contributions for the fiscal years beginning July 1, 14, 15, and 16. One of the key things in the valuation is the interest rate, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, but the valuation interest rate that we used for this valuation was 5.5%. The exhibit at the bottom of that first page is kind of your key numbers. The annual required contribution for all 3 fiscal years is roughly $2.5 million. That second column of numbers in that exhibit that says estimated premiums paid for retirees, this is what we call the pay-as-you-go cost. So if you weren't advance funding for your benefits, we expect each year you would pay roughly $1.4 million to pay for the health coverage just to the retired members. So the point of this valuation is to kind of give you an arc that helps you advance fund for these benefits. If you weren't advance funding and we're just paying for the coverage that current retirees had, we expect a number in the 1.3 or 1.4 million numbers that you're seeing there. Flipping briefly to the next page, what we do with the valuation is we measure the present value of future benefit payments. This is the total cost for your current population. It's benefits accrued for retirees, and for active members, that's the cost for service they've accrued to date and projected future service until they retire or leave the plan. We also have the actuarial accrued liability, the $27.7 million. This is the number for benefits accrued as of the valuation date. So total benefits for people on the valuation date for service that they've already accrued is the $27.7 million. As of the valuation date, there were $2.2 million in assets. So the difference between items 2 and 3 in that exhibit is the unfunded liability. So there's a total liability that you don't have assets to cover of $25.4 million. And that's roughly an 8% funded ratio. So assets over liabilities, the plan is approximately 8% funded on the valuation date. If you flip maybe for some historical comparison, way to the back, appendix page A1, there's history with the contributions and the funded status for both the last valuation and this valuation. You'll see for the 6/30/2009 val, the plan was only 5.9% funded. So we've come up. We're up to 8% funded, but you'll also see, there was a large jump in assets and an even larger jump in the actuarial accrued liability. And the big key proponent driving that is the interest rate. In the last valuation, we used 7%. In this valuation, we used 5%. And that has to do with your funding policy. GASB will allow higher interest rates for plans that are fully funding. So if you were contributing that entire ARC, you could use a higher interest rate in the range of 7.5%. If you're not funding at all and you're doing the pay-as-you-go scenario, we'd expect you to use an interest rate much lower than what you've even used in the 3.5% range. You're advanced funding but not fully funding, so you're making those pay-as-you-go costs You're paying for the coverage people have today, and then in addition, putting aside some small amount of money in addition to that. So that drives the interest rate. We can use something between those two ranges, and that's where the 5.5% came from.
I can certainly tell you, excuse me if I may, Mr. Mayor. It was a wonderful conversation I had between the actuary, the auditor, and dealing with the interest rate and what interest rate we would use here. Following up on the actuary's comments, when we first did this back in '06, we had a 7.5% interest rate. And if you recall, that first year, we made that full payment.
Correct.
About $1.1 million. The next year, the next report, which was in '09, we had a 7% interest rate. So not 7.5, but it came down to 7. This time, that interest rate came down to 5.5. And what you look at here is this, is monies we have invested in the trust, as planned, are doing really well. With the market, it rides with the market in accordance with state law, and we're doing 8-9%. Very nice, very conservative, but very solid. What you have to also look at, though, is the pay-as-you-go money. So what happens here is you appropriate annually for healthcare benefits for retirees. Well, we're only getting a 0.5% interest on that money prior to spending it. So when you look at a 0.5% interest versus 8-9%, the actuary and the auditor are going, wait a minute, David, you can't use that higher rate anymore. You've got to merge together. If you'll notice in the report that we gave to you, Ms. Neeson is saying $2.223 million in assets set aside. Okay, as of 6/30/12. I'm happy to report that as of June 30, 2014, we're at $3.2 million. And if we continue to fund, as we are right now, as council has set aside, we think that by the end of 6/30/17, we should be sitting at about $4.8 to $5 million. Keeping your fingers crossed, we have a nice, steady growth in the market and in the bond market, the equity markets and the bond markets. MERS, the Municipal Employees Retirement System, we send the money to them, and they're the ones that do the investing with those dollars. And eventually, we'll have enough money set aside to pay those benefits. It's going to take a little while, but we'll get there. I wanted to point that out. The other issue that I wanted to point out is this: is in '06 the liability went up, $21 million. '09 we had negotiated benefits downward, raised deductibles, and we're able to get the annual pay go down, okay, from almost $2 million down to $1.4 million. So our liability dropped to $17.6 million, really nice. But now with the inflation of medical coming into play, that being the biggest piece, along with not having as much money into the market to invest, that has driven our liability up, as Ms. Neeson has pointed out, to $27.6 million. So now we have to fund that. It would be nice to be able to fund that over the next 24 years. What we're doing is we're making an affordable payment, and we are making the pay-go, which is what we need to make every month, and hopefully we're able to meet in the middle before 24 years in order to have enough money to pay those benefits. Any questions so far?
Any questions from the council? Just a reaction to we're 8% funded. How does that compare across municipalities similar to ours?
I'd say you see a wide range. There are some plans that we've even seen go out to do bonding, so they are very well funded, and they funded a large majority of their liability, upwards to 90 or higher even. There are equally as many plans that don't pre-fund at all, so they're paying simply the pay-as-you-go cost, and they're not making any additional contributions. You're middle of the road. I think it's a great start. You're doing very well, and you're obviously making progress because you're up from 5.9%. Even in spite of the large increase in the liabilities from last time, you still saw a large jump in your funded status. So I would say you're well within ranges. I don't necessarily see a whole lot who'd partially fund, but it's better than doing the pay-as-you-go scenario. And I'd say we see equally as many of those.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, one other point that I really want to make here and stress is that we have closed the liability. We've closed the group that is receiving a Blue Cross card at retirement. So we are now with the DC plan. So eventually this will go away.
Correct.
Okay, because you will get those people eventually moving on, and we'll be just dealing with the people who are on a DC plan. So, and that program has worked out very well to date. So we're very pleased with that. And I think with the making the pay-as-you-go, making a contribution, capping the liability, we've done everything we can to date, aside from funding it fully, to conquering this liability.
And the only way you could do that is have a bond or something else.
That's as of right now today, or rechanging your whole budget. And we're not going to recommend rechanging your whole budget.
Of course not.
Absolutely. The other thing that I want to point out here is the mortgage. Okay, so when we talk about, when Ms. Neeson talks about the overall liability of 27 million, that's your mortgage, okay? Now, right now, that mortgage is not on the financial statements, okay? It's in a footnote, and everybody can see it in the footnotes, but it is not on the financial statements. But just like pensions, this is coming. Not next year, not the year after, but I would say, maybe 4 years from now? 3-4 years. The GASB is working on this. We're going to have to record it. It will be something that we'll have to work at, but at the end of the day, this is something that you're going to be seeing into the future. So, again, any other questions, be happy to answer.
That's good.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you, Shanna, for coming and answering our questions. Councilor Baker.
Just more of a comment. Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I just, again, wanted to acknowledge and appreciate all the work that goes into this. When we think about the commitments that us as a municipality and as a community make to those who have served the cities and its residents and businesses for so long, I'm really pleased to know that this is being cared for so thoughtfully, being reviewed so thoroughly, and being presented so clearly. It's really helpful for all of us to understand where we're at with this, to understand that we are making additional contributions to help honor those commitments that we can and should do, and I feel real comfortable with the course that we're taking with this. I'm glad that we're headed down the right road. So
thank you.
So thank you.
Very good.
Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Then, seeing no more questions or discussion on this, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on R4714?
Kadeco?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 3?
Resolution number R4814, matter of approving an amendment to the 2013 to 2015 collective bargaining and future bargaining agreements with the Berkley Public Safety Command Officers Association and the Berkley Public Safety Officers Association by adding language necessary to maintain the qualified status of the Berkley Public Safety Pension System under the provisions of the United States Internal Revenue Service Code.
Is there a motion to approve R4814?
Motion to approve R4814.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Blanchard with support by Councilmember Stedman. Mr. Sessa.
Now, Council, my understanding is that these types of changes occurs at least every 5 years. If you've read the memorandum that was put together by our finance director, you'll get a lot of good information. But in order to make sure that you understand exactly what this is all about and to help you answer any questions, I've asked the pension attorney, Cynthia Billings, to come in and discuss this matter. Now, something has since occurred since that time, but for now, I'll have her explain, and then we'll ask for some informal direction from the City Council. Okay, so with that, Ms. Billings, thank you for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. As you know, my name is Cynthia Billings. I'm a partner at the law firm of Sullivan, Ward, Asher, and Patton, and I have been representing the City of Berkeley Public Safety Retirement System for a little more than 12 years. The reason I'm here tonight is, as was previously mentioned, there is an amendment that's required for the retirement system. Your retirement system is a qualified plan under the Internal Revenue Code, which is important because that means that members' benefits are taxed as they retire and receive the benefits, as opposed to as they're earned in a lump sum. So you want to make sure that you maintain that tax qualified status, and in order to do that, as the IRS as a code is periodically amended, we have to keep up with that. Recently, there was a Supreme Court decision, a United States Supreme Court decision in the matter of Windsor, which held that Section 3 of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, was unconstitutional. And that particular section prohibited recognition of same-sex marriages. So that has been declared unconstitutional. The IRS has issued notice for all retirement systems, qualified retirement systems, public and private, that they have to comply with that, just for purposes of the retirement system. So what our recommendation is that we amend the plan to define spouse and surviving spouse as essentially as the member's legal spouse who has met all requirements of a valid marriage contract in the state of marriage of such parties. And what that means for the City of Berkeley retirement system is that if you have a member who is validly married, say for example in California, they now live in Berkeley, work for Berkeley, and they're a member of the retirement system and they have a same-sex spouse, you have to recognize that same-sex spouse for purposes of retirement benefits only. That's all we're talking about, our retirement benefits. It has nothing to do with, you know, someone being able to get married in Michigan, because as you know, that is prohibited, and it's probably going up on appeal to the Supreme Court because there's a split among all of the circuits. But that's a different issue. This is just that our retirement system has to recognize same-sex spouses. So because you're a statutory plan, your Public Act 345 plan, the only way you can amend your plan is through an act of the state legislature or through collective bargaining. So when we have issues with the IRS where they're requiring plan amendments, we generally do it through collective bargaining. So at this point, I believe what we're looking for is authorization is for the council to authorize a memorandum of understanding between the city and the unions to adopt these provisions pending the parties being able to negotiate the exact language.
Correct. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Sessa.
Just, again, because of the situation where we need a little bit more direction from legal counsel, I did speak with our labor counsel, Mr. Howard Schiffman, just a few minutes ago, and I'm glad Ms. Billings memorized exactly what I said. Again, it's just to authorize, just change a little bit so that we can have some signature, allow the city manager to enter into this letter of agreement with the union and to bring a pension system, as she has indicated, to compliance with legal guidelines as recommended or approved by legal counsel. So again, in order for us to meet our timelines, and I know you've got one other comment.
I don't believe I mentioned that. It's
Yes.
required to be adopted by December 31st.
Yes, the timeline.
So time is running out.
Right.
Very good. Time is running out on us all. But, are there questions regarding this or discussion on this matter? It seems like it's bringing us into compliance fundamentally,
Yes. Mhm.
and it is basically pro forma.
Correct.
Yeah, Councilmember
I
Baker.
do. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for preparing this and for helping us be cognizant of both the changes going on at the federal level, the shifting landscape at the state level, and of course, time pressures and all those kind of things that get into this. In your description, you described the notion of the spouse or a surviving spouse in terms of the state that they were married in and all that, and you helped clarify that this has to do with pension benefit payments only, right?
Correct.
So that's good. So I think that's great. As I was looking through the proposed things here, there's a second paragraph which you didn't speak to, and I just wasn't sure
Oh, I can speak.
if you could speak to that
Absolutely.
and the necessity of that, given that doesn't seem to be germane to pension benefits.
Right.
Thanks.
So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, because you're a Public Act 345 plan, your plan, part of your plan, it's not only the statute, but it's also your collective bargaining agreements. Your collective bargaining agreements not only provide for pension benefits, but they also provide for retiree health care benefits. So when you look at the provision of the collective bargaining agreement for retiree health care, it states that members who are receiving retirement benefits and their spouses will be entitled to retiree health care. So we wanted to make sure that when we're amending the pension, that we're not inadvertently providing additional retiree health care benefits that you're not providing currently. Again, this is only applicable to pension, not retiree health care.
And if I may, the pension, is that the ruling that was at the focus with the Windsor decision? I just wasn't sure, since we're looking to talk about spouse and surviving spouse and all this kind of stuff, why we're saying you're okay for this thing, but you're not okay for this other thing. I just wasn't sure. Is that back to Windsor? I mean, I haven't read that
No,
case
that's
specifically.
that's the Internal Revenue Code. It's a federal law. So because your pension is qualified under federal law, the Internal Revenue Code, that is why the IRS is dictating to the pension funds that you have to have this. Healthcare is it's a different statute, it's state law. So that's the difference.
So what, basically, if I may pick up on that, what you're saying is that second paragraph is merely to clarify that this is not included in what we're voting on.
That's exactly right.
That is right. That is correct.
That's a matter for another day.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Um,
Any, Councilmember
Just another
Blanchard?
comment, this also covers both the command officers and the patrol officers, so it's covering both of those groups.
That's correct. We would have two separate memorandums of understanding, one for each agreement.
Good. Anything else?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's just, I recognize that we are at a stage in the process where we're taking it one step at a time, and so I guess I can look at it from that perspective and find some way to help
Make peace with
not
it.
be overly disruptive.
Yes.
Right. Because my understanding is state law has an interest in,
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely correct. You cannot provide that health care benefit in accordance with state law. You cannot do that. And so you have to say that, you have to stop at that point in time. Once that law changes, then we have another situation.
Hence, down the road, we'll be back to rediscuss and propose.
That is correct.
yep.
Correct.
If you were
next
to,
steps.
right, so
Right.
what happens here under our contracts is, once you change spouse with pension, it triggers health care. Okay, well, if it's not allowable under state law, you have to have the second paragraph.
Right.
And that's where we are right now.
To not create that open loophole. if
That
you
is
will.
correct. Well, and not become in violation with state law.
Sure.
All right, and then once state law changes, then you have a whole nother
And
story.
we get to
That's right. In fact,
work
there's
through
some-
all this stuff, yeah.
I'm
That's
sorry.
right. No, that's all right.
No, there's some case law that's occurring in other states that allow same-sex marriages, where participants are suing their employers for not providing health care to their same-sex partners. It's discriminatory when it's allowed. Here, as we just noted, it's not allowed, but in other states where it is, you have that issue.
So one step at a time.
Yeah, that's the message. So we did have that brief weekend where it was legal. And and I know that's probably, I don't know if we have any of that situation here in Berkeley, but, you
No.
know, as we get,
No,
as we get
at this
there.
time, we don't.
So we are where we are today, and we'll cross other bridges in the future.
Right.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, then, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on R 4814?
Stedman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 4?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 0614, matter of considering the first reading of an ordinance amending Berkeley City Code, Chapter 138 zoning, Article 3, general provisions, Division 6 supplementary regulations of the Berkeley City Code, set date certain January 5th, 2015.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 0614 with
Move
date
to
certain?
approve 06.
With date certain January 5th. Support. Moved by Councilmember Cadecle, support by Councilmember Blanchard. Mr. Sessa.
Council, as you can see in the memorandum that was put together by our city planner, Ms. Vanson, the Planning Commission has held a public hearing on this matter, and they are recommending it for your consideration and approval. I know the city planner has worked very hard on this, and I'll turn it over to her so she can explain what we're asking you to do. Ms. Vanson, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have an existing ordinance that talks about projections into yards, which would be a bay window traditionally, maybe an awning over a side door. And given that Berkeley is a great place to build new houses, we of course are having questions from developers on, well, how much can I scooch into that required side yard? And right now it's 2 inches for every 1 foot of required side yard. And I had some inquiries from developers asking, well, you know, can I do a bookcase? How much of that wall can project, and can it have a footing or a foundation? And so the Planning Commission and I talked about it, and the Planning Commission still liked that 2 inches for every 1 foot. They thought that was a pretty good rule. But they did think that we should say that a projection can't have a foundation, so you have to be able to mow under it, essentially, and that 30% of the wall surface area was a pretty good rule. After it got past that, then it would become the wall instead of the actual projection. So we dealt with that, and then as we were having discussions about downtown, the conversation, that's why you have a second paragraph here, for non-residential districts, we don't require a front yard setback along 12-mile Coolidge or Woodward. And so there was discussion about, well, wouldn't it be nice? And of course, you always think of the best case scenario of like a balcony or something like that. But then we're very lucky to have some very astute planning commissioners that during the day read these ordinances and figure out how to build the vilest thing possible, is what I think. Anyway, so they pointed out that, you would start having this creep happen and you'd end up with really very dark sidewalks, actually, and you'd have people trying to outbuild each other. And so they set a limit on, you get to project 3 feet. It's got to be 11 feet up over the sidewalk, so like a balcony. And it can't exceed, again, that 30% of the wall surface area. So we'd be able to have some nice features, some flexibility, again, in the downtown or along Woodward, but it has to be up overhead and not something that's going to smack anybody in the head if they're walking along. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for our Mr. Sessa?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, as you know, I'd like to recognize the chairman of the Planning Commission, Mr. Dave Barnett. He is here, and I'm sure he's happy to help us answer any questions as well. Thank you. Sorry.
I think these recommendations make a lot of sense to me and seem to be quite straightforward. But
Just a comment, not
Councilmember Reddick.
a question. I just want to say, the reason that they are so straightforward at the meetings is because the whole committee tirelessly goes through this over and over and over again. And really, we made a little joke about it being this dark, horrible thing that they create. But you can see that they're so knowledgeable. And so when it gets in front of us, it's clear, concise, easy, good to go. Thank you.
Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's very well written. We've been hearing about it so long, it feels like we've known this, but it seems to be very well written, and it looks like it's a great job to me.
Yeah. Thank you. Very good. Then seeing no further discussion, Ms. Boucher, please call the roll on ordinance 06-14.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
Dackel?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 5?
Ordinance number 0714, matter of considering the first reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 138 zoning, Article 6, Administration and Enforcement of the Berkley City Code, set date certain January 5th, 2015.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 07-14?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Councilmember Edgar, support by Councilmember Kadekel. Mr. Sessa.
Council, I guess you're going to be hearing a lot about this for the next few items, but I'll turn it over again to our city planner, Ms. Vanson, only to state that the Planning Commission has reviewed this. They did hold the proper meetings, and they are recommending it for your consideration. So, Ms. Vanson?
So this is one, a few years ago, I thought that the whole Article 6 administration enforcement needed to be redesigned a bit and have, because there's a lot of similarities between special land uses and site plan approvals and rezonings. And so in an order, if I was a developer, if I was a business owner and I wanted to be able to find what the process was, I wanted it to be predictable on A, B, C, D for each one. So I did that and I overshot apparently, and it went by, nobody noticed it for years, including me. Nobody noticed it. We had a resident notice it this summer, and he had done a search on our city code and pulled up rezoning and found it in 2 sections where it did not belong. And so I I tweaked it, sent it to the city attorney, and he tweaked it even some more. So you're going to be back with the rest of this probably. So we'll get it perfect one of these days. So essentially, this is deals with variances and appeals. It's really just correcting typos. We've always we don't send rezonings to the ZBA. We send it to Planning Commission and City Council in accordance with state law. This is really just clarifying what we do anyway.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Benson on this? It seems pretty much clear cut. Very good. Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on ordinance 0714 with a date certain of January 5th?
Blanchard.
Yes.
Edgar.
Yes.
Hideko.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 6?
Ordinance number 0814, matter of considering the first reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 138 zoning, Article 2 definitions of the Berkeley City Code, set date certain January 5th, 2015.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 0814?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Councilmember Cadeckel.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Edgar. Mr. Sessa.
Again, Mr. Mayor, City Council, these are items that the Planning Commission has reviewed, and they're looking for some further clarifications. And Ms. Manson, would you please elaborate?
Yes, we have a definition currently for building height, and we have graphics that I did not provide to you but are in your zoning ordinance currently. And we've had an issue particularly with gambrel roofs, your sort of red barn type roofs. And because our current ordinance does not stipulate the pitch, folks can say it's a gambrel roof when it's really kind of doing this instead of your sort of more pleasing to the eye traditional. And administration has, building department staff has had some problems with interpreting this because of the way the ordinance, it's really just a definition at this point in how it's portrayed and where that halfway point of that dogleg is. And it's gone before the ZBA. We allow very large garages. We've now changed the ordinance to allow taller garages. And we just want to make sure that people aren't getting 3-story garages when really the intent is to allow a 2-story garage if it's allowed, or a 1-story garage if that's what's allowed. So Planning Commission and I worked on definitions and stipulating exactly what the pitch needs to be to qualify for a flat roof or a gable roof, and particularly the gambrel roof. And with the 30 degrees and the 60 degrees, and I got to revisit trigonometry, which I haven't done in a really long time. And so that was really the intent. That's really the problem that this is trying to solve, is so that it's very clear to anybody that's building, because you don't want to have somebody draw up plans and then be told no. We would much rather say this is what the expectation is, this is what we think is fair for everybody, and then they know it, and this is going to help with the garages being more pleasing to the eye as well.
Very good. Any questions, discussion on this item? Again, it's a clarification of the rules, designs, and the calculations, the trigonometry that
A lot of trigonometry.
goes into this. And once again, we are indebted really to the work of the Planning Commission for the detail
great
and
group.
care that they bring to this task. Are there any other questions on this item? Seeing none, then Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on ordinance 0814 with the date certain January 5th?
Edgar.
Yes.
Hideko.
Yes.
Stedman.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Blanchard.
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 7?
Public hearing, matter of conducting a public hearing regarding the reprogramming request for 2014 Community Development Block Grant Funds.
Is there a motion to open a public hearing?
Motion.
Motion by Councilmember Blanchard with support by Councilmember Stedman. Mr. Sessa, would you give us a sentence or two about what this entails before we turn it over to the public?
Your Honor, this is just to consider a reprogramming, but I know our city planner is interested in making some comment, but Ms. Manson?
So Oakland County and HUD always used to just do this after the census was taken, so every 10 years, but for some reason they decided to change things. And so last year, when the council designated funds to be spent at Lazenby Field for park improvements, Lazenby Field was in a low to moderate income area. And between December and August, HUD said it wasn't anymore, which is great, except we can't spend the money there. So I've worked with the Parks and Recreation Director. We've had lots of discussions, and I'll talk about that more on the next item, and looked at this map for a long time. And so what he had designated was that the senior center entrance really should be an automatic door, and that is something that is something that is necessary, and it is an eligible improvement, and so that is what he's recommending.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to come to the microphone on this topic? Seeing none, then we will close the public hearing. And Ms. Bowser, would you please read item number 8?
Motion number M8514, matter of directing the city planner to prepare a reprogramming request for 2014 community development block grant funds.
Is there a motion to approve M8514?
Move to approve.
Moved to approve by Councilmember Cadecle.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Blanchard. Mr. Sessa.
Again, Mr. Mayor, City Council, this is a reprogramming, and I've asked Ms. Vanson just to quickly explain how this is going to work. Ms. Vanson.
So what we'll do is if council votes for this, we will send it on to Oakland County. I've already checked with them that this is eligible, and we would be able to move forward then with having plans or contractual documents, and it could go out for bid, and the improvements could be made then.
Very good. Any questions from Ms. Vanson? Councilmember
That's a quick
Blanchard.
question. On the barrier-free improvements at the senior center entrance, is that going to take up the whole $28,469, or is there other improvements included in that also?
No. At this point, the estimate is, I think Mr. Caldwell had received an estimate of about 5,000. I'm guessing it's going to end up going up to 10 just with Davis-Bacon and things that always seem to happen with construction projects, even though they don't show those on television. So we're going to have some left over, and at that point, we would be able to come back to council and decide at that point. So.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M8514?
Cadecle?
Yes.
Stedman?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. Now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 9?
Public hearing, matter of conducting a public hearing regarding the Community Development Block Grant Program 2015 to 2016 fiscal year.
Is there a motion to open a public hearing?
Move to open a public hearing.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Blanchard with support by Councilmember Cadecle. Mr. Sessa.
Council, as you know, we are now in a public hearing mode, and we listen to any comments from individuals regarding the request. We do have an individual from Haven. Ms. Liz Byer is here with us this evening, and she would like to speak to the City Council. Ms. Byer?
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for your support of Haven in years past. From July 1st of 2013 to June 30th of 2014, we have served 15 residents of Berkley along with 2 crisis calls on our crisis line. Haven offers a variety of services that benefit all of Oakland County and also residents of the surrounding counties. Includes a shelter in Pontiac for those fleeing for domestic violence reasons, our 24-hour crisis line, just any time of day someone to speak to if they're in crisis for domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking. Social action program, we do have an advocate assigned to the Berkley court, so whenever a domestic violence case comes out here, sexual assault or stalking, we always have an advocate available to be on site and assist people. We assist in filing for PPOs. We also have programs that help go to the schools and educate children on healthy relationships. So again, I just wanted to thank you for your time today, and any questions about Haven?
Councilmember Cadecle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More of a comment than you're thanking us, but I want to thank you for all the great work that you do and assisting people. And, this money is definitely well spent.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Likewise, I echo my colleagues' sentiments. It's a reflection of society that we need to have support like this available, and it's very uplifting to know that we have such services provided by such great folks like yourself and your colleagues on Haven. So we're very grateful for this. I'm sure every community wishes that they didn't need to take advantage of an opportunity like this, but we're so thankful that you're there for those who have that need. So thank you for what you do, and I'll absolutely be supporting this tonight as well.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
All right, thanks.
This council and prior councils have had a strong commitment to support Haven, and I'm very confident it will continue.
All right.
Anybody else to come before this public hearing? Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing. And Ms. Bowers, would you please read item number 9? And number 10.
Resolution number R4914, matter of adopting the Community Development Block Grant Program application for the 2015-2016 fiscal year.
Is there a motion to approve R4914?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Councilmember Cadeckel.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Baker. Mr. Sessa.
Council, this year, or for the 15-16 fiscal year, the City of Berkeley is looking to receive approximately $40,670 for community development block grant funds. Now, we are recommending the use of these funds, and with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Vanson so she can explain in very summary as to how we propose the expending of these funds. Ms. Vanson.
So you remember that map I mentioned in the last item? I have looked at this map probably 3 dozen times, half a dozen times today alone as I was preparing for this. And it was only at about 7 o'clock that, and I made a mistake. Angel Park is not in an eligible area. I'd seen this and read it 1,000 times, like I said, and it's not an eligible area. So I've already talked to Mr. Caldwell regarding my really big mistake, and we can still do what we had designated was we were going to do $2,500 for Haven. Mr. Caldwell had asked for yard services to be $5,000, which provides snow and lawn maintenance, snow shoveling and lawn maintenance to income qualified seniors. And then we had $33,170 left over. The area that is designated is just a little further over from where Angel is, and so there are no parks located in that district. I had mentioned to Mr. Caldwell, we do have we are capped at public services at 30%. We are not there yet with the 7,500, the 5,000 of yard services, and the 2,500 for Haven. We could up that a bit. I don't know what this winter is going to bring. Hopefully it won't be the worst ever again. And the remainder, they do like to see capital improvements. We could do sidewalk ramps. I had a discussion with our public works director about doing, and that can be anywhere in the community. It doesn't have to be in a designated area. And our public works director was very interested in having 2 years worth, because then you actually get some economies of scale as opposed to a $33,000 or $30,000 project. It ends up being not as cost effective, but if we had $30,000 this year and let's say $30,000 next year, we would be able to do a $60,000 project and build up some economies of scale. That was his recommendation. He had deferred to Parks and Rec, given Parks and Rec's limited income resources, when I had informed everybody that Angel Park was in the eligible area, but when it's not. So I apologize. At 7 o'clock, I thought, well, do we just go ahead with this and I just come back later, or should I just throw it all on the table now? So I am sorry.
It's difficult.
Okay, so Mr. Sabuda.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the sidewalk program, the Finance Department would be very in favor of a sidewalk program due to the fact that we need to do non-motorized improvements in the city, okay, in order to ensure we receive Act 51 road monies. So this will go a long way to help us meet our 10% match on non-motorized improvements in the city. So I would like to bring that to the attention of the council. Thank you.
Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for, hey, I'd rather know now where we're at than come back later. So that's all fine. And having said that, I do like the idea of the non-motorized improvement, certainly from our complete streets perspective, and ensuring that the wonderful sidewalks we have continue to be as safe as possible and all that. I certainly think that makes sense. So I guess I have a procedural question. Would we need to amend our motion here to, you say, $30,000 for sidewalks and the balance to be distributed between the public services and Haven, or something to that effect?
Yes.
Yes,
Mayor.
so we are going to have to talk about this. Councilmember Edgar.
Is this just for residential areas, or can this go to, like, Robina?
No, it wouldn't be able to go to Robina because that's not eligible.
Right.
It has to.
It has to be,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
you can
has
do,
to be
you can do
income.
sidewalk ramps, you can do areas that are previously, that are not accessible. Currently, if there's an area that does not have sidewalks, that would be considered an accessible project. The only portion of 12 Mile that is in an eligible area is east of Bacon, between Griffith and, gosh, type gets so small, doesn't it? Phillips. That on the south side.
right?
So it seems to me, Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to clarify, I think, I know the answer is, you talked about the public service, the yard and snow funds. I want people to know that if those monies are not used, then they can be reallocated at a later date. Is that correct?
If
If we don't get
for
enough snow,
If we don't, I think if we don't pick up snow, I am guessing, I don't want to speak for Mr. Caldwell, but I would think that we would definitely be able to mow lawns then. We used to have, previously, Oakland County allowed 40% of $90,000 to be spent on public services, and it's just a matter of whether you do gutter cleaning and you can
I just
certainly.
want to make sure people didn't get the impression that if we didn't get enough snow, we're going to lose that money.
Oh,
It
no,
can-
no,
it
no,
can-
no.
It'll be used in the same
Absolutely.
public services area.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's good for 3 years. So if it
Thank you.
doesn't get spent because it's very dry and very warm,
Well, just like we reprogrammed earlier on, we can do this again.
oh, absolutely, you could, and you won't lose the funds.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, we could leave everything as it is and $33,000 go to the sidewalk.
Yes,
We could likewise add 1,500 to Haven, 1,500 to the yard work. That would take off 3,000 and leave your 30,000.
yes.
So I'm just making suggestions here. Is there anyone kind of think these are worthy of? Councilmember Cadeckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like that idea of adding the 1,500 to Haven and 1,500 to the yard services, leaving the 33,000. So therefore, I move that we do that.
Does that still stay within our 30%?
Anybody have a calculator?
We better check that.
We can,
That's my
you can
point.
certainly, say it needs to be 30%. They're gonna knock it down anyway. And the 40,670 is a working number anyway.
Okay.
They always come back and say, this is what Congress gave you, so what do you wanna fund? And
Okay.
I would approve that funding ratio.
Okay,
The
Yes.
ratio.
the ratio.
Ratio,
Okay.
yes.
Now,
Yes.
the original
But we
motion
re-
was made by Councilmember Cadeckel and supported by Councilmember Baker. Is this adjustment acceptable to the
Yes.
maker and the seconder?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody's clear now? Correct? Okay. Any additional discussion?
sorry for the sausage making, I apologize
Well,
again.
that's okay. Sausages are good at times. So where we're saying is 1,500 additionally goes to Haven, 1,500 goes to Tom's program, and then
30,000.
the 30 remains. Very good.
We vote on the amendment first.
We're going to, we have made the adjustment and the maker of the motion
Okay,
accepted it and the
okay.
seconder accepted,
don't
so
need to- okay.
we don't need to do that. Ms. Boucher, please call the roll on R4914.
Stedman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
Cadeckel,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you all. Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 11?
Motion number M8614, matter for authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with LSL Planning Incorporated to develop a residential form-based code for an amount not to exceed $14,500 as stipulated in its proposal. Monies to come from account number 101-801-818-000.
Is there a motion to approve M8614?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Councilmember Edgar,
Support.
support by Councilmember Cadeckel. Mr. Sessa.
You know, Council, I'm very pleased that the Planning Commission is looking into this. Form-based codes is something that we've talked about for many, many, many years, and to actually be able to do this now, I'm very pleased to bring this proposal. Now, the city planner did go out for requests for proposals from various firms. As you can see in the in her report to you, we received a total of 5 bids. And they range anywhere from as low as $14,500 to as high as $70,900 and so forth. But Ms. Manson did evaluate these each of the proposals, and we do believe that LSL is the right proposal, and we are recommending them for your consideration. Ms. Manson, would you like to add?
Planning Commission reviewed these. I know somebody at LSL, and I know somebody at McKenna, and I know somebody at Netterveld, so I kept my mouth shut. Planning Commission thought LSL, they've got a lot of knowledge of the city, and form-based code being rather detail-oriented, that knowledge was going to be very important. I did let Brad Strader of LSL know that they were being recommended. It's a very busy night. They have several meetings. It's the last Monday meeting before the holidays, so they're scrambling right now, but I did tell them I would let them know tomorrow what gets decided.
Thank you. Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could we get an explanation of form-based code for the people that are watching on TV? So
Sure.
they know what we're
If
talking
you
about?
think, sure, if you think of a zoning ordinance being a pie chart, within the last century, when zoning was considered okay, but was approved as appropriate police power by the Supreme Court back in Buchler versus Ambler, 1920s, I want to say. Most of it involved uses. It didn't involve what a building necessarily looked like. So you didn't want to have the slaughterhouse next door to you. And so zoning out of that, when you think of tenement apartments and you think of noxious uses and that kind of city setting, probably 70% of the pie was the uses that were allowed in a district. And the other 30% was what the building's going to look like, how far back it is from the street for light and air and all those things that were important when you think of a city from 1900. Well, now we have screens and we have air conditioning, and it's a different kind of world. And what we have found is that when we decided to go 70% use and only 30% form, it didn't necessarily build you the kind of places that you wanted. When you look at a zoning map and you look at it, and I'm not judging, I'm just saying, if you look at Ford Road, Canton, that's red on a zoning map. And if you look at downtown Birmingham, that's red too. Very different places, though, very different way of experiencing the place. And so form-based code really gets at, do you want it to look like Canton, or do you want it to look like downtown Birmingham, or something in between, something different? It looks at 70% of that pie being what the building's going to look like, still 30% use, because you don't want to be next door to a slaughterhouse, that's no good. But 70% as to what the building is going to look like, and 30% use. It kind of flips it and gets more after what you want your places to look like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Cadeckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Vanson. And I noticed you're getting a lot of exercise today.
It's good. Getting my steps in.
Right. I see from 14,500 to 70,000.
It's Miami guys. Yeah.
I mean,
big bucks.
What was so much different with the 70,000, just out of curiosity? Or
It was an international firm. I think we were paying for a lot of plane fare because it was a Miami firm. When I had initially thought about putting this before council for the budget session, I had asked, I know Brad Strader, and we chat, and I said, so how much is this stuff going to cost? And he said, well, probably about 15,000, and so 16,000 was what was in the budget, just because you just never know. I was surprised to see Netterveld, which is a firm that I guess they do a lot of form-based codes. I was surprised to see how high they were. I was thinking most would come in the 20,000, local would come in the 20,000 range. But I know Brad Strader's firm did Grand Rapids form-based code, and so I don't think this is going to be any problem at all. and we won't have to pay for plane fare.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bacon.
Thank you, Your Honor. A comment and a couple of questions. First, the comment is I am a fan of form-based codes. I think they do really speak to the intended character and charm of a community, and I think that's really great. It is one of the newer tools in this kind of public planning process, and I'm really glad that we're taking these steps down that path. I actually have 3 questions. I'll try to do them just one at a time. First was, this is limited or focused on the residential area. Could you explain the advantages of focusing on residential, and then if and when we'll get to the commercial or the downtown?
Okay. When form-based first kind of arrived at planning conferences, they're pretty foxy things, and it's $40,000 though. And so what the Planning Commission and I have worked at is within the confines of a conventional zoning is making small changes that get us toward that. And I actually had a session at a conference in 2008 called Small Changes, Big Impacts, that talked about how you change the sill height and how you say how much window there ought to be, and you have your front setback where you want it to be, and you make allowances only if it's for a public place, not just green space. And so we've done quite a bit of that already. What I have heard from folks, and I think I expressed this in my memo, but is I see a real gap with our residential. I see developers saying that there's only a single-family home market in Berkeley, and then I hear from folks that live here that want to stay here that they want to have different kinds of housing, and they want to be able to stay here as long as possible. And I think that a way to get at that is through form-based code. I went to a session last year, and while we're not Rochester Hills or Canton that have really very large single-family homes where you think, oh, my kids are never going to afford to live here kind of thing, Berkeley certainly isn't that and has much more diverse housing types, even in the single-family genre. But this session was featured by Mishta and talked about the fact that Michigan is overzoned for single-family homes, and when they look at, in the next 30 years, the families that are going to need housing, they don't all want a 2,500 square foot single-family home. And so we really need to look at diversifying our housing type, and I thought that just from what I had heard, the disconnect I had heard from developers in Berkeley, saying it's only a single-family home market, and the residents here, and then hearing this other person say, we need to think about this for the next 30 years. I think having a form-based code will help that, because as we've seen, it's really important. If things are a sure thing, if we want something, we've got to make it as easy as possible. And so if we can zone something for form-based codes so that the neighbors are going to be happy with it, that it's not going to be a nuisance, it's not going to be a blight on or an interpreted blight on the community and in the neighborhood, if we can allow for denser housing and provide for a diverse housing type that's contextual, I think that would be a win-win. And the developers will know that we want it, that the city wants it, and as long as it looks like X, Y, and Z, and everybody knows that it's going to be, I'm at a loss for words, but it's going to be a sure thing. Everybody knows what they're getting, and there aren't going to be any ugly meetings and sausage making. We'll say that again.
So would we then extend this to the downtown area at some later time? Is that how?
I think that would be up to council to decide. I would like to see how this goes and see if it is successful in getting what we want. I think as far as the downtown goes, we're already getting a lot of what we want. And if at one point, council and there's money available for that, because again, that's going to be an additional $25,000 probably to do the rest of the city, certainly we could do that.
Okay, just so it's part of a plan then. And so, second question is around so if we move forward with this tonight, we don't just wave a magic wand and then all of a sudden we have form-based codes. Could you describe a little bit of the process that we would go through in the coming months to get to the point where we're ready to move forward or to take action on this?
Well, we're going to meet with, the Planning Commission would meet with LSL after a contract signed and go through, and they're going to, as they go through their proposal, talked about analyzing the city and figuring out which areas, if there's going to be focused areas or not, and what the building type should look like, and there's going to be probably, well, at least, they outlined 6 meetings. Planning Commission thought there might be more, but 4 working meetings, and then certainly there would need to be a public hearing. It still needs to be adopted by City Council, so you will, if you don't like the way it looks, you can say back to the drawing board.
Nice. So there is a public process involved.
Yes, and all the meetings are public
conversations,
meetings, yep.
all those wonderful, nice things. And as I'm sure is part of the nature of that work and our relationship with folks such as LSL, I was just kind of reading through some of the details in here, and they talk about the approximate cost plus expenses, and we had a not to exceed. And so we figure we'll probably come in right in there, right? I'm just was kind of, I don't want that to trip us up.
Right, I didn't want it to trip you up either, and I'm not, I don't write a lot of these motions, so I had 14.5 as stipulated in its proposal. If we do have 16,000, so I don't know if we want to say 14,500 plus the email that was sent. I'm not, see, I couldn't figure out an eloquent way to say it.
Well, we do need to approve, excuse
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I
The
was just gonna
agreement.
say, it's a little different. Their material said 14.5 plus expenses, and we were saying not to exceed 14.5. I just wasn't sure. I mean, they mean different things. I just wasn't sure which we were gonna
Yeah,
do.
what expenses are they envisioning? I mean, I can't be driving over from Royal Oak. Is it an expense?
I think if we wanted, 55 gajillion colored copies, but I don't anticipate, I've never had a problem with LSL coming.
See,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't,
fine.
yeah, I think it's fine too.
I think if there's 2 additional meetings, certainly if we want to, say something, and perhaps the city manager or finance director can help me with that verbiage.
Mr. Finance Director.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. What I would recommend is that you would say, you would approve the contract for 14.5 and expenses not to exceed $1,500.
Is that acceptable to the maker of the motion? Who made the motion?
There's 16,000 in the budget.
Well,
I know.
when you add them all.
Just saying.
You'll get there.
Okay.
You'll get there.
We need to know from the city clerk who made that motion. Who made the motion
For LSL.
for
This just,
LSL?
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the M86,
Yeah.
Edgar was the.
Edgar and
then Kadeco was second.
Kadekel. Now, Councilmember Edgar.
Yes,
You're
that would
okay
be
with
fine.
that
That would then bring us to the 16,000, correct? Yes, if we needed to go
I'm sorry, I
there.
didn't add it up correctly. I
And,
apologize.
and is that
Sorry.
okay with the seconder of the motion?
Yes, it is, Your
Okay,
Honor.
it's okay with both the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion to make that adjustment.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Anything additional? Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. In looking this over in task 2 of the blueprint, it states in here that the LSL will provide suggested dimensional requirements, and then it goes on to talk about graphics. So to accompany the dimensional requirements, basic form-based code graphics will be prepared to illustrate up to 3 additional housing types. Additional graphics may provide additional cost. Is that enough? And if not, what is the cost for an additional graphics? That's not something we're gonna have to worry about?
I don't think so. I mean, they're going to illustrate up to 3 housing types. That's pretty good. And I don't think we want to have too many. That was something Commissioner Smith, who's an architect, had said, yeah, these form-based codes, they look really foxy. He says, but, I'm saying foxy, he didn't say that, I'm paraphrasing. But he said they are really a bear when you're trying to work them as an architect. And so that was something we stipulated in our proposal, was that it needs to be clear, it needs to be, I hate that term business friendly, but again, a developer needs to know coming in that this is what I can do, this is what I can't do, and that this is what they want to see, and in most cases, they're happy to do it. They just don't want to have a lot of meetings. So I think 3 is going to be
Your
okay.
graphics would be not exact what it looks like, but basically what it would look like. So the architects could make minor modifications for the customer and still be within the form-based code?
Yeah, and I think that and the Planning Commission talked about this, and I want to be very clear as well, and this didn't come up this evening, is that this is not about like it having a theme. When you think of is it Gaylord that looks like you're in Little, or Frankenmuth or something like that. It's not about that. I just got back from Orlando. It was lovely. And what I noticed going to Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios is that it's about the scale. You know, you have Main Street on Magic Kingdom, and it looks like turn of the century Main Street, but everything's kind of smallish, and everything's kind of close together. And then you go to Hollywood Studios, even though it's in Florida, kind of strange, and it's like old California, and it's all Art Deco, but it's still that same scale. So we don't want to have everything look a certain way. It's really about the scale, and so I think, you know, these 3 graphics are going to get you there, whether you decide to have a modern building or whether you like gingerbread or something in between. It's really about the scale.
I just want to make sure that our people listening didn't understand we could only have 3 types of houses, because we've probably got 4,000 types of houses in Berkeley
Oh,
right
yeah,
now.
no.
God, yeah.
Right. That's a good clarification.
Thank you.
Anything else on this item? We have worked with LSL many times in the past, and it has always worked out nicely. So I'm confident as well as my colleagues on this one. Ms. Bowers, would you please call the roll on M8614?
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 12?
Motion number M8714, matter of authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Oxford Electrical Services to serve as the city's substitute electrical inspector.
Is there a motion to approve M8714?
Motion to approve M8714.
Support.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Blanchard, support by Councilmember Edgar. Mr. Sessa.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. John Rooney has served as our substitute electrical contractor for many years. However, he is now incorporating, which now requires us to have a new agreement with him. And we understand and we concur with his request. The city attorney has reviewed this contract, and he is recommending it for your consideration. Ms. Vanson, is there anything else you need to add?
No, I have nothing to add.
Thanks a
Nothing to
lot.
add. Councilmember Blanchard.
Just a point of clarification, there's no change in rate or anything else,
No.
it's just a change of from
Title.
the individual to a corporation.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Seems
Mr.
clear,
Mayor.
straightforward. Councilmember Kadeco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real quick, I don't know if it's a typo or what.
Oh, I hope
In
not.
the whereas on page 72, I don't know if you have the pages.
Yep.
The second to last, it says the city desires to enter into an independent contractor agreement with Oxford Electrical for the personal serve. Do you want that to say services?
No, probably. Yes, sorry. I'm
It just
sorry.
sounds better with services.
I am so human tonight. I'm sorry.
So services it is.
Yes.
That's the only.
Any other thoughts? Seeing none, Ms. Boucher, would you please call the roll on M8714?
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. Now, Ms. Boucher, would you please read item number 13?
Resolution number R5014, matter of considering a resolution to reimburse certain permit fees related to the August 11, 2014 flood event.
Is there a motion to approve R5014?
Motion to approve.
Motion
Support.
approved by Councilmember Baker with support by Councilmember Kadeco. Mr. Sesson.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, you know, and I know, that we've been looking for something like this for a long time. And one of the reasons it's taken us so long is that we wanted to make sure that it was being done in accordance with law, and that obviously this was something that we could do, and we had to make sure that we could figure out a way as to what we thought would be fair. And then also, we had some concerns with from FEMA to see if perhaps maybe they could refund. So after much work and review, the city attorney came up with this resolution for the city's council's consideration. Now, there are some things, I know the viewing public is out there and they'd like to know, what is this all about? There are some specifications, and with your indulgence, I'm going to read a few of these items. Now, these are under the various sections of this resolution. And basically, what we're looking for is that that the following fees under the Code of Ordinances for the City of Berkeley for permits and inspections are hereby temporarily waived for the replacement and repair of the following items. And we're looking at furnaces, water heaters, and backwater valves that were damaged by the August 11th flooding and surcharge of the sanitary and stormwater systems. And then we identify the sections as to which they follow. So those are the only items that we're looking at. And again, please let me stress that we're asking for a temporary waiver of those items. We're saying also under Section 2 that all owners of property in the city, including homes, businesses, and rental units, are eligible. We're also, again, specifying under Section 3 that this fee waiver will apply only to the replacement and repair, and I'll repeat again, furnaces, water heaters, and backwater valves that were damaged by the flood or surcharge of sanitary and stormwater systems, again, that occurred on August 11th, 2014. And this is basically to clarify the next statement, and that is that the building department may request the fee waiver to provide information that may be necessary for us to verify that the work that is being done is eligible for the fee waiver. So we're asking the City Council to please allow us to ask for some verification that this indeed occurred due to the August 11th flood event. And then lastly, we're recommending that any fees already paid for those permits or related inspections applied for or used between, and we're giving some specific dates, August 12th and October 3rd of 2014, that those permit fees should be refunded after the work has been inspected and approved by the city's inspectors, provided that the work is approved no later than June 30th, 2015. So that's a while from now. We're giving enough time, more than 6 months for the next year, to allow that work to be completed. And we also indicate that the refund will be issued to the current property owner of record according to the city's property tax roll. So it's not necessarily the permit holder. Okay? Now, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know that the city planner and our finance director, and of course we gave it out to the rest of the departments to take a look at and examine. And they all work together with our city attorney. He is recommending this for your consideration. And if Ms. Vanson or the finance director can assist me in answering any questions for the city council, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Now, if someone is at home listening to your presentation and it's not exactly clear whether they qualify, they have some questions, how can they get clarification on that?
They can call my office, Your Honor, and that number is 248-658-3350.
Thank you. And Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. What is the process for them to go ahead and request a refund?
They just need to come to our office and meet these requirements, and we'll submit the request.
Is there anything that they need to bring with them, or any forms or anything that?
We may need to ask them for some confirmation that indeed that work was being done, and we may ask for some receipts. Ms. Vanson, is there anything else you think that you may require?
I had been talking with our building clerk regarding this, being on the agenda, and we were talking about reports that we can run in BSNA with regard to and how to make sure that it gets noted in the system. Essentially, I was thinking that anybody that was getting a permit really between August 11th or August 12th and October 3rd did it because of the flood. And so I was really looking at doing a search on that and seeing if somebody had
And that's still permissible. That's still permissible. We can still do that.
Right. That was really, and as long as it's been inspected and it's been approved, then we would be able to move forward and do a report for finance and request it.
I'm sorry, but in terms of documentation, I mean, I've suggested that they bring in some type of receipts, or is there anything else record-wise that you may require so that you can confirm that this indeed happened during this time frame? That's what I'm looking for.
If they, if a permit was pulled, for instance, if a mechanical contractor, we had, thousands of dollars worth of permits being pulled during that time period. If they pulled it during that time period, I think, I can't imagine that, I guess there is a possibility that somebody would have, planned on having it installed in June and it just happened to get done. But I was essentially figuring during that time period, if you were installing a furnace or a water heater and the associated electrical that went with that, if council was okay with this, then we were gonna end up, doing the form for finance to cut a check to the property owner.
Okay. Councilmember Edgar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Why the cutoff date of October 3rd?
That had to do with FEMA, is my understanding, and
Yes.
when they were eligible.
Yes, it is done in
I'm
accordance with FEMA deadlines as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Councilmember Baker.
Thanks. Those are two of my questions already. Thank you, Your Honor. I guess just to kind of build on the positive intention that you're characterizing there, within that time frame, a lot of stuff was happening to a lot of people, and to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt and just begin that process makes a lot of sense. I wonder to what extent, this is just more me wondering out loud, could we kind of run that report and sort of proactively contact folks and say, hey, it looks like you filled out this form here. Is this, and basically not wait for them to contact us?
Yes.
Or is that actually
Yeah,
what you're
I
describing?
wasn't,
That's
oh,
what we're
I
going to
don't,
do.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be of benefit with our small staff to have 50 residents at the counter. So I think that would, we'd love you all, but it would not move things along quickly. So.
Great. So what I think I hear you saying is that we will proactively reach out
yes.
to the folks that did the right thing, came to us, got the permits, did all the stuff, and I think that's excellent.
We have a list already, Your Honor, that we have, and so we'll look at that and we'll submit it as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
Anything else on this issue? I think this is a very important issue because many of our residents lost a lot of money in terms of property and damage and so on. And this is at least one little thing we can do as a city, just to waive those permit fees. And I'm very pleased that it's before us.
Well, and I think it's important, it's not waiving it, it's issuing a rebate to the
And a
property owner.
rebate, yes.
I had a number of contractors come up and say, well, you're waiving the fees, right? And I said, what guarantee do we have that you've passed it on to the resident? So, no. We'll issue a rebate when the time comes.
Very good.
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bowers, would you please call the roll on R 5014?
Edgar,
Yes.
Kadeco,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now, Ms. Bowers, would you please read item number 14?
Motion number M8814, matter of approving the memorandum of understanding between the cities of Berkley, Ferndale, Hazel Park, Madison Heights, Royal Oak, and the Huron Valley Ambulance Service for providing tactical medical services to the Southeast Oakland SWAT team.
Is it a motion to approve M8814?
Motion to approve M8814.
Support.
Approved by Councilmember Blanchard with support by Councilmember Kadeco. Mr. Sessom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a matter that was brought to my attention by our public safety executive staff. I'll say both the chief and the deputy chief. And we are recommending it for your consideration. I know that our city attorney has also reviewed it, and he too is recommending. But Deputy Chief North prepared this memorandum, and what I'd like to do is to turn it over to him because he's been very patient. He's the last item, and to give an explanation to the City Council exactly what we're doing this evening. Deputy Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Sessa, Mayor and Council. This resolution is a add-on of a medical segment to the Southeast Oakland SWAT team, of which we are participatory members, which has already been approved by you. Tactical environments are different than standard medical environments. The paramedics would be trained to operate in a tactical environment, which is a lot different than a normal medical situation. They will train people to work with the team. They'll be properly equipped. And, in the event of something like this happening, we will have people that can provide immediate, or as immediate as can be, rather than have to worry about removing someone from the hot zone, if you will, to the cold zone where, paramedics who are not equipped for a tactical environment are stationed. In this world, we have to remember, there are no one set of solutions to any given tactical or emergency situation. The whole idea is to put as many percentage points in your favor as we can. And that's what this accomplishes with your approval.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Having worked in both of a tactical environment like this myself, being in the military for 30 years, and having a son who now works on this exact team, I am fully in support of having tactically qualified medical personnel with them on their mission. So I totally support this.
Any other discussion on this item?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Ms. Bowers, will you please call the roll on M8814?
Hidalgo,
Yes.
Stedman,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Blanchard,
Yes.
Edgar,
Yes.
O'Dwyer.
Yes. And now we come to the communications portion of tonight's meeting, and Councilmember Stedman is up first.
Oh, wow. Okay, I have some stuff to read from the library. For the month of December at the library, they are having the Giving Tree again. Last holiday season, the library raised over $1,000 for the purchase of new materials through its Giving Tree campaign, and its return this year is ready for you to make some selections. Browse ornaments on a decorated tree in the lobby, and then donate the amount listed for the purchase of an item. This helps the library have an even greater variety of items available for the community. That's going on right now. The 2015 Book Lovers Calendar. It's not too soon to start your holiday shopping for at the library. The Friends are now selling the 2015 Book Lovers Page-A-Day calendar. They're filled with selections of old and new titles, and they make excellent gifts for all readers on your list. And they're available during regular library hours for $10. And the Story Time with Santa is going to be on Wednesday, December 17th at 6:30 p.m. And if you want to reserve a spot, please call the library and make a reservation as soon as possible. That's on Wednesday. So that's the news for the library. You saw the presentation from the Berkley Beautification Committee, and they selected 5 homes to receive holiday spirit commendations, and I'd like to thank them very much for their help and their putting on this program again this year. I'd also like to thank everybody, every volunteer responsible for the parade on Saturday, the 6th of December. It was beautiful again this year. And thank you very much to all the organizations that helped and contributed. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Blanchard.
Thank you, Your Honor. In that same vein, I'd like to thank Santa Claus. He did a tremendous job up there getting the people fired up. And when I looked out there and saw those kids wrapped all the way around that gazebo, clear back to the street, waiting in line, said, this is a great success. So it was a great success. I think that everybody knows that we're working on our redo of our emergency operations management in the city, and it's coming. I just wanted to let you know that today I went to a legal class in emergency management, and here are the PowerPoint presentation, 3 slides per page, 82 pages. That's called death by legal PowerPoint. So that's what I did today for the city of Berkeley. That's all, Your Honor.
Very good. Councilmember Baker.
Hi. Thank you, Your Honor, but I think the emergency preparedness is necessary to learn about emergency preparedness. But I would like to echo my gratitude and appreciation for those involved with the recent Holiday Lights Parade. The DDA, the Historical Committee, the Chamber, Junior Women's, all those groups came together. So many volunteers, public safety, of course, Public Works to make it all so seamless is fantastic. And in addition to Santa doing such a great job, the only one that did even better to introduce Santa was our very own mayor. You continue to represent us well. Your words are so eloquent and get so energizing, and if it wasn't for that, who knows where the evening would have taken us. But thank you for all that fantastic stuff. Speaking of things taking us places, here in what they call the lame duck session of our state legislature, which is post-election but before the new guys get elected or sworn in, lots of things tend to happen. And our transportation funding bills are currently in the hopper being discussed. The Senate passed one version of a set of bills that would create funding to fix the roads and bridges. If anybody has stepped outside your house in the last how many years, you noticed how poor the roads are. So the Senate has one proposal. The House has a very different proposal. And so where they're at now is in a conference committee to try to reconcile the two differences. They come to actually a reasonably similar funding amount, a dollar amount, but where that money comes from is drastically different. The Michigan Municipal League and my personal perspective here is in support of the Senate's version. The House version largely robs from other departments to fund this, so it would adversely affect education and municipalities in particular, among others. Knowing how hard we fought for every dollar and the ways in which those dollars are being invested wisely, I think there's alternate ways to help fund these much-needed repairs, and so I support the Senate bill on that, and I wish them all the luck. Those of us that are in a position to do so, please continue to contact your legislators. They actually do listen to us, even those that are in their final days in office. They want to at least know that they're being representative of those who care about them. So if you could help us out and think about this and take a look there, that would be awesome. A couple of quick other thoughts here. This day in history, so the movie Gone with the Wind came out this day in 1939, if you're familiar with that classic, 1939, not too long ago, Gone with the Wind. And just before that, in 1791, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, was ratified on this day in history back in 1791. Today is also, appropriately so, the National Bill of Rights Day. FDR back in 1941 made this the National Bill of Rights Day, so as we get a chance to think about all that we take for granted and all of those that have done so much to help ensure that we have these rights, it's great to honor and recognize that. And not to belittle that by saying that today is also the National Lemon Cupcake Day, but I do think that is a really good thing, and if you've had a chance to celebrate that with me as well, that would be great as we talk about transit. So, but I would like to close with a quote from D.M. Dellinger, who once wrote, "This is my wish for you: peace of mind, prosperity throughout the year, happiness that multiplies, health for you and yours, fun around every corner, energy to chase your dreams, and joy to fill your holidays." I hope you all have a safe and happy holiday season. Enjoy, be especially grateful and appreciative of those around you, and live every day. Just live every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Redger.
Thank you. Just wanted to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, prosperous New Year, and see you next year. That's it tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Kadeckel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ditto to what my colleague said about the Holiday Lights Parade. I don't need to repeat that. I want to thank Karen Korber and the staff at Farina's, along with Sue Thornton, for a wonderful, wonderful senior luncheon that we had this past week. It was packed, and as always, they do a great job. And the juniors had their Candy Cane Lane sale this past Saturday, and the place was packed. It was great, with both vendors and people. To my colleague, the retired colonel, and to finance director, sorry about the game on Saturday. So close, but yet so far away. Tomorrow night is the first Hanukkah light, so I want to wish all of you celebrating a happy Hanukkah, a very happy Hanukkah. And going with tradition, I'd like to say Chag Molad Sameach, Merry Christmas, and that's in Hebrew, obviously. And I want to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday season. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sessa.
Okay, here we go. Now, Council, I know that I've informed you about this next item, but before I begin, I would like to express my appreciation to our city planner, Miss Amy Vanson. And she has been very patient in being recognized for this fabulous award. She undertook this all by herself, and I can't thank her enough. I know I've talked to her on one-on-one, but I think you will agree with me. She does an amazing job as our city planner. And, Amy, the city of Berkeley will never know all the work that you do for us. And I cannot thank you for everything that you've done. I think you're an incredible city planner. And we're very fortunate, very, very fortunate to work with you. Now, Mayor and City Council and to members of the public, let me announce that back in October the 6th of this year, Ms. Vanson applied for the Michigan Fitness Foundation Promoting Active Communities Award, and we did receive it. Now, we received the bronze level, and I don't know if she wants to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to let her come up here and receive this award, but they look at a couple of areas as they look as to how or why a city should receive this award, and it's right here for the viewing public. It's beautiful. Turn it around, maybe. I won't be backwards. It's quite lovely, and I've waited until she can actually be here, because these past council meetings, they've either been too long or she has not been able to attend or whatever. So that's the reason for taking it very, very long. But I know that there are 3 guiding principles that work in concert to create an active community, and they give us points. Talk about points. But in this case, they're looking at the building of our environment, and we received 61.2% of that. And the building of environment, what they're talking about here is on the design and maintenance of the built environment and any type of transportation networks that must be made in order to make this a safe and attractive place for people to walk or bike or whatever. And we received 61.2% in that arena. And then under policies and planning, took a look at our planning documents, municipal ordinances, and development of any new policies. And as you can see tonight, we had quite a few. So maybe next year this will change. But we received 53.5% in terms of possible component area points. And then under programs and promotion, what they're looking here is to see how well we educate and do outreach in schools and neighborhoods and work sites that are essential to help encourage people to participate in some type of physical activity. And for that, we got a 52.6%. So we got a little bit of ways to go on that one, but still, I think it's important. So overall, we achieved what they call a community PAC award level of bronze. And they gave us 56.2% of maximum total points earned. And they also pointed out that we are one of a few cities in the state that are actually have a complete street ordinance. We are one of 97 communities in the state of Michigan. And I'm very proud of that. And I know Councilman Baker is, because he's very, very, very interested in doing this, and he was one of the ones that began this. So I hope you appreciate that. That's really good. But again, I need to recognize Ms. Vanson for her outstanding work and for going out and getting this award for the city of Berkeley. Ms. Vanson, thank you so much. I don't know if would you like to say a few words?
I will say I spent a lot of time and had to pester various department heads. That sort of seems to be my job a lot of the time. I want to thank the principal of Rogers Elementary. Her name escapes me now, but she had to provide the education component of that. I asked her to do that. Our building assessment people that are Stantec, formerly SHW, I asked them to provide information on an employer in the city of Berkeley and what they do, and so they were very kind to do that as well. So it was certainly a collaborative effort. I could do a lot of things on my own, but obviously I can't speak to the policies of Rogers Elementary or Stantec. I was at a conference on Thursday and on transportation in Lansing, and they have this wonderful speaker. I've heard him before, and he was talking about healthy communities, and he comes from the health background, and he was discussing, he calls them sticky communities, and how you need in order, and he talked about the fact that this next generation of children, statistically speaking, people aren't walking, people aren't playing, and he asked all the participants to remember the first time that they could remember when they were kids of when they were playing. Did it involve Little League, or was it just, for me, riding your big wheel outside and probably doing things without an adult around, and, you know, that maybe you shouldn't be doing, but just playing. And he talked about how you need to have sticky communities that make that easy, because if it's all programmed activity, whether it's the treadmill that sits getting dusty in our basements, or if it's just organized sports for kids, people don't stick with it. And that's really a health crisis that we're experiencing. And so Berkeley is very fortunate that it has good bones, as I've said before, and as I said, you know, in 2008 in Kalamazoo, that we have a walkable community and it's safe. And those are all things that got this, because people aren't afraid to walk outside. The sidewalks are there. You can walk to stores. It's a sticky environment. The kids, we don't have a bus system. The kids can walk to school. Those are all good things, and that's what got us the bronze level, and we'll go for silver next year. Platinum. We'll go for platinum and we'll get silver. There we go.
So, Council, if you don't mind, I know it's taken me this long to recognize our city planner, Miss Amy Vanson, for this fantastic award, but can you join me in just applauding for all her work? Yay, Amy. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Again, it's a great community, and that's really what got the award. Yeah, I just did the paperwork on it, but.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
And then just finally, keeping with tradition, as Councilman Cadecco said, I too wish, there I go. I have a hard time saying some of these SH words. But I too want to express my appreciation to the City Council and to all the residents out there for such a wonderful year. And I too want to wish everyone happy holidays. And so I will say it in Espanol, or Spanish, as I say. Feliz, se me olvidaron las palabras. I forgot the words. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad y un próspero año nuevo, which means Merry or Happy Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. Or it's coming. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Gracias. Mr. Sabuda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to take the opportunity to wish everyone a very safe and very happy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize a member of the Berkeley School Board in the audience, Mr. Mitch Moses. We're glad to have you here. And I'm sure you were very pleased with the comments of my colleague, Councilmember Baker, reminding us that it's the Senate version of the roads bill that we need to be supporting, because the House bill does it at the expense of education, which to my mind is short-sighted and foolish. On Friday, we are having a collegial day with the members of the City Council, department heads, city administration, to think about the future and to set planning priorities. This is a very important day for us, because the collective wisdom of the Assembly is very important to harness. We live in challenging times when creativity, everyone's creative energies need to be harnessed. I mean, I just saw the other day where the largest seller of books in the world does not have a bookstore. It is Amazon. Yeah. So when you think about the kind of future that is emerging, the creativity and ability of everybody needs to be leveraged and maximized. Our colleague, Mayor Pro Tem, Dan Turbrack, isn't with us this evening, but he asked me to extend his holiday greetings to all the residents. And so let me do it on his behalf and on my own in Gaelic. Nollaig fe hain is fe washayiv galair. And so on that thought, that means Merry Christmas.
Not happy
I think
Christmas.
it sounds better in Spanish.
That's right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Councilmember Stedman, support by Councilmember Cadecle. Ms. Bouch, would you please call the roll?
Stedman?
So bad.
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Blanchard?
Yes.
Edgar?
Yes.
Cadecle?
Yes.
O'Dwyer?
Yes. The December 15th council meeting is adjourned.
Yes.